Okay, hello guys, and welcome back to another video. Yes, there's a lot of changes right now. First of all, obviously, I'm on my laptop, as you can see. It's not one of those videos where I'm walking around, holding the camera, talking to you guys, which is basically my whole YouTube channel up until this point. But what I'm trying to do is, incorporate this style of, videos because I believe it will be helpful for you guys and me, just to get the knowledge down that I've acquired over these like 3 years of me doing business and just other stuff. And I just want to switch the style up on my YouTube channel. I don't always want to be walking around talking because sometimes I don't even have stuff to talk about when I'm walking around. So I feel like this will be a good switch up. And second of all, yes, you probably noticed my hair. I cut it. I just wanted to change up my hairstyle, to be honest. I've had hair for quite a long time now, so I just wanted to go back or, change to this style because I just wanted to change in it, and I think change is good. So yeah, getting into this video, what is this video even about? Well, I believe, not even believe, I know I'm going to be a multi-millionaire by the time I'm 25, and I'm going to outline the reasons to you guys why that is. This video is going to be an informative video, about me, and hopefully you guys can take something away from this, because if this is the path you want to go down, maybe you find something in here that you agree with, you want to apply to your own life, and that you do. That's the point of this video. So let's get into it. The first point is I'm able to see 10 years into the future. Now, when I say I'm able to see 10 years into the future, that doesn't mean, I'm some sort of psychic who can conjure up some sort of spell to make me see into the future. That's not what I mean. It just means I'm able to plan my life 10 years ahead of where I want to be, or, just of where I want to be, and then work backwards into, okay, this is who I am now. I want to be there. What are the steps to get me there, and let me do those steps to get me there. That's basically what I mean by 10 years into the future. Now, this is very different from people my age. I'm 21 right now. Most people my age don't even know what they're going to be doing in the next 1 to 2 weeks or months or next year. They don't know where they're headed. So for me to be able to plan 10 years into the future, I obviously, from the books I've read, from the podcasts I've listened to, from the people I've heard speak, this is one thing that they all do. They plan very meticulously. They plan 5, 10, 15 years into the future and work backwards so that they can get to that point. And I likened it to a skyscraper. If you live in London, you obviously know the Shard, all the buildings that surround it. These skyscrapers are beautiful. If you look up at them, you stand next to them, you look up at them, it's like one of the craziest things you've ever seen. But those skyscrapers didn't start there. It wasn't just, someone thought, okay, I want to build a skyscraper today, and then it happened in the next 3 years. No, from the actual conception of the idea up until the building was actually built, most skyscrapers take about 8 to 12 years. That's for a medium-sized skyscraper. So I want you guys to treat your life as like some sort of skyscraper. The initial idea is a starting point, and don't look at it as in, from 1 to 3 years I haven't got done what I wanted to get, because that's just unrealistic. If you want to build a skyscraper that everybody can look at and be like, wow, this is beautiful, it's going to take a long time. Obviously, we walk past houses every day, and if they're not
really nice, beautiful houses, it's just a part of our everyday life. Nobody's standing there looking at a council house and be like, wow, this building is amazing. But people will stand and look at a skyscraper or a beautiful church or a nice mansion. They will stand and look at that and be like, wow, that is beautiful, because it took time to create. It took years of planning. First of all, it took years of planning. Then it took years of action to actually create such a beautiful building that people can now admire. So I want you guys to treat your life as a skyscraper. These are just examples of what, some of the stuff I plan or I note down that affects my life, that I need to do for business, for religion, for relationship with God, for just anything in general. I plan down my life. I put it down to paper meticulously. I have notes here, a couple notes over here that I plan down. I have stuff in my actual notes app. I have different notepads that I write inside. Like I plan so meticulously so that I know what are my next steps and where do I need to go and how do I need to get there. So I want you to treat your life as it's a skyscraper, so you can get to the top of that skyscraper. Build a beautiful skyscraper so that me and everyone else can see that skyscraper. Okay, point number 2. Over the past 3 years, I have developed unrelenting grit. And this is just to show you with ecom. I tested different products like koala relief toy. It was this thing. This was the first product that I ever tried to test. It didn't work out because the competitor, like a lot of stuff went into it. That's not what this video is about, but yeah, it didn't work out. Different bags, different leather tote bags, different dressing, different hair products, different supplements, different men's clothing as well. I didn't even include that, but I've just tested a lot of products. And that's just with Shopify alone. And that's not even where my business journey started. My actual business journey started with SMMA, which is social media marketing. I started with one of my close friends. And from that, we moved into like SaaS, web design, AI automations. It was all under one roof. So it wasn't like, we was kind of bouncing around at the beginning, but it was all under like one platform that we tried to do stuff in. And then from there, I moved on to e-commerce, doing, Etsy. I've talked about that previously. And even at one point, I did door-to-door sales. This is when, after Etsy, I explained it in my previous video. So if you haven't watched that, go and watch the previous video. I explained, my Etsy, what happened with Etsy when all my Etsy stores got banned. And then I had to go and find a job. I did door-to-door sales. But yeah. And through all of these setbacks is giving me this unrelenting, grit that there's generally, as I'm speaking to you right now, there is nothing that I put my mind to. There's nothing that I can conceive. There's nothing that I can plan out in my life that I believe I cannot do. As long as I stick to it for a long enough time, I know I can do it. I know I can get it done. I know I can reach my goal. I know I can do basically anything. Anything that I set my mind to, I know I can do it. But that can't be formulated until you actually test it. Until you actually test your, your resolve inside that thing. There's no way you can actually know that you have that unrelenting grit inside you. So I would implore every single one of you watching this, if you want to start a business, if you want to go head on into a career, you want to start a fitness journey, you want to do anything in life, if you need to first test yourself, push yourself into that deep end, and then you can build that sort of trust with yourself to be like, you know what, I did this in the past, I did that, and I got through it. So I know I can do this. And there'll never be any obstacle that you believe will be too big for you. So yeah. And also one thing that I want to preface as well, I have this sort of at the bottom of my wardrobe, like this cupboard over here, I have some sort of a memory lane type of thing. So from any job that I've ever done or any like experiences that I've ever done, I just keep it at the bottom of my drawer to show myself that, look, you went through this. This was my door-to-door sales job. This is when I worked at a warehouse. I'm obviously working at a warehouse now, but this is another warehouse that I worked at. This is when I was at David Lloyd's. This is when I was at school. What else? Obviously, this is like from Etsy money. Like I keep this because obviously it's cologne, but it was it's perfumes that I bought. But I was buying this when I was making money with Etsy, so it's a kind of reminder for me. But yeah, like these are just different examples of. Obviously, I showed you guys that toy there. These are just different examples of like sort of quote unquote trophies that I have to just show me that, yo, look, you've gone through this. This happened to you in the past, and you've gotten through it, and you've learned stuff from it. So you can do this. You can get past this phase of your life, and you will end up on the other side better than ever before. I put one of my favorite quotes here from David Goggins, where he says, when the ending is unknown and the distance is unknown, that's when you know who you are. So for me, I can relate to that quote a lot. Obviously, I know where I want to end up in life. I know where I want to go. I know where I see myself in 10 years. But I don't know how long. I can give myself a time frame, but realistically, I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get to where I want to go. But within that time frame, that's where I know who I am. That's where I know not even who I am, but who that person is in 10 years. So imagine it like this. Imagine yourself in 10 years, whoever you want to be in 10 years. Imagine all the qualities that person has, all the stuff that person has, all the material stuff, you know, physical stuff, mental stuff, all that stuff that person has. For you to become that person, the time period from you now to that person then is what builds that person. Do you understand? So when it says that's when you know who you are, it's not saying that's when you know who you are as in right now. It's that's when you know who you are as in you in the future. That's when you know who that person is, because you can't understand that person until you get or you go through what that person has been through. So I'm seeing myself in two different lives. Obviously I'm still the same person, me here and me here, still Prince in a sense, but they're two different people, because Prince here hasn't gone through what Prince here has gone through. And until I go through this, obviously until I go through this, I won't understand him. Do you understand? So it's kind of mind confusing what I'm saying right now, but for the people who get it, they get it and they'll take it and they'll apply it into their life. Okay, point 3. I am here to build legacy, not just wealth. This point obviously, this point stems beyond just money. I believe legacy is God-given, and I can cover a multitude, or it can cover a multitude of sections. Some people's legacy is to build the next Apple or SpaceX. Others may be to impart knowledge onto their families and community. Money is just a byproduct of your legacy and should never determine your state of being. I believe this wholeheartedly. When I say legacy is God-given, God has placed everybody on this earth to do a specific role, to play a specific part in humanity in general. And for some people, like I said here, you're supposed to be the next Steve Jobs. You're supposed to be the next Elon Musk. You're supposed to be the next Tyler Perry. You're supposed to be the next person who builds the greatest thing and become a billionaire. That's some people's life. Some people's lives are supposed to be teachers. You are supposed to be a teacher. You're supposed to be the best teacher ever in the world. And obviously, if you look at these two different jobs, the person who builds SpaceX and the person who who becomes a teacher, obviously there's going to be some disparity in pay. There's going to be some disparity in wealth, but that is not to say you are any less of a person than the person over here. You might be even more of a person for doing this because you're building up the next generation. That's how I internalize it. Even though I understand, yes, I want to be a multi-millionaire. Yes, with the stuff that I'm going to do, I'm inevitably going to make a lot of money. That doesn't determine who I am as a person. What determines who I am as a person is the legacy I leave. Because at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. It's pretty, harsh to say, but we're all gonna leave this earth, and we can't take our money with us. We can't take our clothes, our cars, we can't take anything with us. And when we die, all those stuff will be either sold off or they'll be given to our family. But what we truly leave on this earth will be our legacy. There's a saying that says you should plant a tree. Every man should plant a tree, because that tree will outlast you. And that's the same thing with your legacy. Your legacy will outlast you. Once you die, once you leave this earth, people will remember you for the impact you left on other people's lives. And I want to be remembered for the legacy that I believe God has given me, God has instilled into my life. So that's what I'm chasing towards. And I understand that that is inevitably going to lead to me just making, money at the end of the day. I don't know how much money. I'm saying multi-millionaire. That's what I believe I'll get at the end of the, along my journey. But maybe God has more in store for me. Maybe God has less. I don't know. But I'm not worried about the money too much. It's legacy that I'm more worried about. But yeah. Moving on to point 4. I have reinvented myself multiple times to reach new heights. This obviously links back to part 2, where I was talking about, the different aspects I've gotten into and have, accumulated this grit, or of how I've acquired this, grit in a sense. But I've changed myself multiple times to submit new mountains. Like I've said here, I could not be SMMA Prince when I was trying to create offers for my e-com store and be the e-commerce Prince. And in a book that I've read by Patrick Bet-David, which is Your Next 5 Moves, he tells us that the most important product you will ever come across is yourselves. The most important product I will ever come across is me. The most important product you will ever come across is you. So we must constantly improve that product so that we can reach newer heights and be the best versions of ourselves. I think that this point is just pretty self-explanatory. I can even see, me, the change that I've undergone, with me cutting my hair, me placing my workspace in a different area, and me adopting this kind of new mindset and all the stuff that I'm learning and internalizing right now, I can understand that as me reinventing myself again. You know, I'm trying to submit a new mountain. In a later YouTube, my next YouTube video is going to be me showing you. It's probably going to be me showing you my goals for Q4, and those are that's the mountain that I wanna climb over. That's the mountain that I wanna get to the peak of. So I'm reinventing myself right now so that I can reach those goals. I can reach that mountain, and I implore every single one of you to reinvent yourself. You should constantly be reinventing yourself so that you can reach new heights. You know, I believe one of the reasons why, people get to a certain point of wealth or status and fame, and that they become depressed, is because they don't reinvent themselves. They get the goal that they've always wanted. You know, maybe they wanted to reach 10 million. Maybe they wanted to become famous. Maybe they wanted to get 1 million followers. They reach that point and then they don't reinvent themselves. They get to that point, they get stagnant, and they don't push past that. They don't say, okay, let me realign myself to bigger goals. Let me do something else, that I've always wanted to do. They get to that point and they just stay there and they become depressed because what else? What else am I supposed to live for? But because I've understood this from, my conception from the very beginning, that I have to constantly be reinventing myself. I also believe, I believe that's another reason why I'm going to become a multi-millionaire. And that's why I insisted on putting multi-millionaire, just not millionaire, because I understand that once I get to the millionaire status, there's a reason, or there's I have to reinvent myself again to get that multi-millionaire status. So yeah, that's another reason. And my final point, which is point 5, my why is greater and carries more weight than any obstacle I face. My friend Yanni talks about this a lot on his YouTube channel. I've had him on the channel once, and most of you probably already know him as well. But my why is one of the greatest reasons why I do what I do. It's why I can always overcome any challenge that is placed in front of me. This point kind of just links back to every single point, point 2, point 4, point 3, and point 1. It links back to every single point. My why is the biggest reason why I do, why I do the things that I do. And it pushes me every single day. Obviously, I would akin it to this. Let's say I want to get to Manchester. Right now I'm in London, but I want to get to Manchester. There's different ways I can get to Manchester, but at the end of the day, I want to be in Manchester. I want to be in that place. I want to get to that specific goal. I could take different routes. Maybe I take the 321 to Lewisham and get the train, the DLR, get this, that. Like I could go that way, or maybe something happens along that way. Where there's an accident. I have to get off the 321 and I have to take a different bus. I have to do this, do that, do that. Like I have to go through different routes to get to that specific point. And that's just how I see my why. My why is big. It's this end goal that I want to reach, and specifically, obviously, without compromising my morals, I can take different routes to get to that point so that I can eventually reach my biggest goal. And I believe every single one of us should have a big why, and obviously different routes to get towards that why. Obviously, you can see I've placed here. This was for my business planning specifically, but I had short-term goals that I needed to hit, and then I always reevaluated those short-term goals so I can eventually get to this long-term life goal. These long-term life goals that I placed for myself. That's a train, by the way. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but if you can, it's just going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. It's not going to be too loud. I'll try and edit it out as well, but yeah, back to the video. I have these long-term goals that I've laid out for myself, and these short-term goals that are getting me towards this long-term goal. So I believe every single one of us should try and at least have some, short-term goals that we are, aligning ourselves with, that also align with our long-term goals, so that we can look back at the journey of life and be like, wow, I actually did that. I actually got to this place that I said I wanted to get to. And then once we get to that place, we reinvent ourselves and strive for something bigger. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you took away some value from what I've been saying, from, how I've lived for these past 3 years in general. And I hope you guys are going to stick around for my journey into, hitting this goal of multi-millionaire by 25. And when I do hit that goal, I'll obviously make another video talking about this and talking about where I'm gonna head from there on. So, you know, like and subscribe if you like this video. Comment down below what you liked. If you have any suggestions, you know, anything you guys want to see on the channel, then please make sure to, you know, comment that as well. And I'll be seeing you guys in another video. All right, bye.